love it. I love it. I love it. Look at this. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
What's up, guys? Leighton here for UFC Gambling Addicts, back again with another full card breakdown and prediction video. You know what card it is. It's UFC 245. This is a really good card. There's 3 title fights on this card, so I'm really looking forward to that. The last time we had that was when George St. Pierre fought Michael Bisping, and I have a little bit of information for that card, so I'll save it for the smoke break. As always, there's timestamps in the description, so if you want to get straight into the breakdown of the fights, you can skip me. As for the recap of the card last night, I'm not going to do a recap on this video because I've already done a recap. So we're going to save a little bit of time. But as always, I'm going to go through some comments, my bets, Twitter, and all of that fun stuff. So we'll start with the bets. Betting night. It wasn't a good night. Alistair Overeem, I mean, 5 seconds. 5 seconds away from making it a beautiful night. But that's MMA. That's the sport, you know. 5 seconds. It could have happened 5 seconds into round 1. Or it could have happened 5 seconds away from a 25-minute fight. You know, that's just the sport we have. Everyone who picked Alistair Overeem, you know, we didn't make a bad pick. We lost, but at the end of the day, 24 minutes, 55 seconds, it looked good. But it only had to look good for Rosenstruck for 1 second. And most people taking Rosenstruck, you know, you pretty much all felt that second would come in the first round, second round. But 5th round, that answers some questions. Rosenstruck has power and speed still in those late rounds. So questions answered from Rosenstruck. So yeah, a couple bets were watered down because of Void, the draws. But I did manage to get AJ, Anthony Joshua, decision before the UFC card started. So in terms of money lost on the night, you know, that really made it much better. Not really much of a loss, like a £20 loss at the end of the night. So yeah, I'm happy to get straight into this UFC 245 card. We're going to try get some predictions here. Before we get into the card though, let's get into some comments. So, no, I'm not going to do this again. Before we get into comments, we're going to look at the poll from last week. So, 350 votes, and we had 31% on Alistair Overeem. So, yeah, I'm in that 31%. It does hurt. The 69% of Rosenstruck. Guys, listen, you're gonna have to leave some comments right now, and you know, basically say in the comments, look, listen, we picked Rosenstruck, I picked Rosenstruck, but good pick on Overeem. You know, we're a community here, boys. We're gonna be true and fair to each other. You know, 5 seconds away, it does hurt, but this is the sport we love. It is a beautiful, nasty sport. It is nasty beautiful. So make sure you go and vote on the poll for UFC 245. Make sure you get those votes in. I want to get over 400. Okay, so some comments from last week. Okay, my pet frog made me do it. For some reason, I don't believe you on that. I don't believe your pet frog made you do it. F, bruh, this is a tough one. Can Overeem avoid the death shot and take it to the ground? Or will Jairzinho crack that Dutch chin? I think Rosenstruck knocks him out in the first. The odds are 50-50. Feel slightly safe with my money on Yair. Stay stoned, stay happy. Beautiful way to end that message too. Really beautiful. Yeah, like I said earlier, most people picking Jairzinho Rosenstruck was thinking that second of death would happen early. But once again, man, that answers our question, right? This guy can crack and has speed, and he's dangerous, nasty dangerous in those late rounds. So massive credit to Rosenstruck. Ivan Pichuguin. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, bro. I think Overeem will come out smart, try to clinch, take down Jair like he did to Pavlovich. I mean, listen, both of these comments that I've just read out, they're both right. Ivan, you nailed it for 24.55. I was with you on that. My Pet Frog, you nailed it. You got the round wrong, but that 1 second of the death touch, that's the difference. Tyler Lee, recently Overeem has won against dudes who can take a shot. Honestly, don't see his chin holding up to Rosenstruck's speed and power. Man, I mean, you got it. You got it in the final 5. I've seen a couple people come out and say that the stoppage wasn't good. Listen, oh man, if I could play that one, I was on Overeem. If I could play that one, I'd play that one. But when that man touched him, when that punch landed, his brain and his body shut down. That stoppage was beautiful. Rosenstruck knew it. He walked off. Dan knew it. It's beautiful, you know. Rosenstruck's, he's undefeated. He's 4-0. He's looking great, you know. And the worry for him would still be probably grappling and, you know, fighting off of his back. Overeem was in a good position a couple of times to sink in a Kimura or look for a head and arm, but when you're not down there enough, you know, you're still looking for what you're natural at. You know, the elbows. Overeem was looking for the elbows on the mat. So, yeah, good comments, guys. Okay, so let's move on to some other comments, if I can find them. Okay, Amir said, tell me why Stephen Struve and Ben Rothwell are on the main card, please. So, looking back at the fight, I feel like you was onto something, Amir. I feel like you knew we was going to see a 7-foot giraffe of a man roll around because a heavyweight nut shotted him. It was gonna, yeah, I feel like he was onto something. Okay, Rob. Selecki beats up Wyman. Means picks apart Alves. Font boxes up Simone. I think Jairzinho will get the KO, but so could Overeem. Jairzinho has been knocked out twice in kickboxing by a left hook. On Wikipedia, his record only shows 28 fights, where he is 18-9. Would like to see where the other 60 are. Yeah, okay, so Rob, you nailed all the fights, and then you went on to basically say how Wikipedia aren't doing their job right. So, yeah, anyone who's seeing Rob in the comments, listen to this guy, because obviously Rob's a boss. You're nailing fights, you're taking a hold of Wikipedia and saying, listen, this is how you do it. Rob, fair play. Fair play. Jake N. I took Lad. Pretty heavy. Stay away from Yana, in my opinion. She is bad versus pressure fighters. Good luck all. Okay, so you nailed it. You nailed it, because the third round, the corner got in Aspinall's face after the second round. And what you're saying in your comment is Yana's bad against pressure fighters. Well, that pressure came at the start of the third. There was no glove touch. Aspinall took instructions from her corner and used nasty pressure, real quick pressure, and it was done instantly. Nasty. Aspinall, man. Massive, massive win. And I'll be honest, guys. I took Yana, and I really liked what she was doing in that fight. I not only said that, listen, Yana's, this girl at 135, she's strong. She's proven to be strong. I felt she would compete in the clinch. Did I know she would hold Aspinall up against the fence offensively for over 2 minutes and pepper her with knees? No. So even though I said Yana was strong, I was still wrong. She is very, very strong. So massive credit to you, Jake, with your shout. Your shout came through at the very start of the third round. So congratulations. Okay, we're going to do 2 more comments, and I'm not trying to put these comments together to be funny. Well, maybe I am a little bit, but at the same time, they were right next to each other in the comment section. So it's like life already made it funny for me. Cubic Man, as an ex-smoker, let me say I like your smoke breaks, mate, making me miss it almost. And then we have Sam saying, when you said smoke break, subscribe. So here we go. We have an ex-smoker and a smoker, and they're both here through MMA. One guy smokes, one guy doesn't smoke. I'd like to say, Cubic Man, keep up that grind. you're not a smoker anymore. Smoking's not good. Obviously, some people might come back and be like, smoking what though? Because, you know, some stuff is good. But ultimately, putting any kind of smoke into your lung isn't good. So keep up the good work, Cubic Man. On the other hand, Sam P, if you're a smoker, I'm with you, bro. I'm with both of you. Keep up the good work. Okay, let's get into this UFC 245 card. First fight of the night. We have Punahele Storytime Soriano versus Oscar Piechota. We'll start with Punahele. So Soriano comes into this fight 6-0 as a pro. We saw his fight on the Contender Series against Jamie Pickett, where Soriano looked good in that fight, got very tired, kept coming forward. You know, he didn't really let his fatigue play a part in that fight. You know, he was very tired, but still searching for that kill shot. And that's what got him the contract on the Contender Series. From what I've seen on tape of Soriano, this guy is just looking to come forward and fire missiles at your head. He's not looking to really be in much of a technical fight with you. He is a good technical guy. Like, his punches, if they're going to land on the sweet spot, you're going to go to sleep. He will throw some nasty high kicks as well, so watch out for that. His opponent, Oscar Piechota, comes into this fight 2 wins, 2 losses inside the UFC. This guy is primarily a BJJ practitioner. Started training in jiu-jitsu at a young age. Transitioned into MMA in 2011. So primarily a grappler. He is a black belt, so that's where his bread and butter is found. However, Oscar Piechota has turned into quite a decent striker inside the octagon. So if you go back and watch what he did to Tim Williams, that counterpunch was beautiful. I know most of you right now are saying, that's Tim Williams. But at the same time, if it's a beautiful counterpunch, it's a beautiful counterpunch. He has got it in his locker. He is a good striker. Maybe not the best striker in the world, because he is primarily a grappler. But this is what MMA is about. It's about being trained in different types of martial arts, being good everywhere, being an 8 out of 10 everywhere. That makes a good mixed martial artist. Now, I'm not saying Oscar Piechota is an 8 out of 10 when it comes to grappling, but what I am trying to say is primarily a grappler, but he can punch. He isn't a bad puncher. It's an interesting fight to start the card. Obviously, anything can happen in MMA. We saw that last night. But if you was to ask, you know, what's your story of this fight, I think it's pretty clear. I think if you're Oscar Piechota, you're looking to take this fight to the mat. I think if you're Soriano, stay the same, look to force a brawl, and I think you're going to find a nasty shot. The strange thing about this fight is, if you look back at the last 2 fights Oscar Piechota has had inside the UFC, that was Meerschaert and Vieria, the high-level BJJ practitioner. Both of those fights, if Oscar Piechota had kept it on the feet, if he was able to keep those 2 fights on the feet, he has a good chance of winning. So now, he has a fight where I think he has to take it to the mat. So we're going to find out even more about Oscar Piechota. So if he can win this fight, he's better at winning fights he can take to the mat. We probably already know that, but at the same time, it's a mental thing, you know. Last 2 fights, keep it on the feet. Now I have to take it to the mat. It's a strange one. I'm going to stick with Soriano. I think his power, his recklessness, just coming forward, just trying to find that kill shot, could be the one. Obviously, he's only 6-0 in MMA. So Piechota has that experience grappling. That could be the difference. But I think Soriano is really nasty. He's a really nasty guy. He's going to try to take off Oscar's head. And I'm going to go with that. So I'm going to take Soriano via TKO in round number 1. And we take a look at some odds. Have we got odds? Yes, we have. Okay, so Soriano minus 120. Oscar Piechota plus 100. And William Hill has plus 100, but these other bookies seem to have -105, -110. So we're going to get a complete pick'em on that fight, and I think it's fair. I think, you know, I mentioned Oscar Piechota has the experience in grappling. That really could be the factor in this fight. Or it could be Soriano is just a madman and he's going to just take off Oscar's head. That's why this line is so close. Probably not the safest, but if Soriano just comes out and just wipes him in 30 seconds, then you're looking back going, why didn't I take -120? On the other side, if Oscar chokes him, you're thinking the same thing. Either way, I think it's a bettable line. Okay, moving on into the next one, we have a really decent matchup here. We have Jessica Eye versus Vivian Araujo, I believe is the pronunciation. We'll start with Jessica Eye. So Jessica comes into this fight 4 wins, 6 losses, 1 no contest. She's training out of Strong Style Fight Team. She fought at 135 pretty much her whole UFC career, stepped down to 125, and that's where she found a little bit of success. Despite the head kick loss to Shevchenko, you know, I'm pretty sure 95% of us took Valentina. Despite that loss for Jessica Eye, she is still a very well-rounded mixed martial artist. She's a good boxer, good kickboxer. You know, she can wrestle. She's got good experience in BJJ. We see that in some of her fights as well. You know, she's a well-rounded girl. Very experienced. You know, she's fought some good girls. Hasn't got the best record, but, you know, she's a problem for anyone. You're not just going to run through Jessica Eye the way Valentina did, you know. That was a special win, obviously. You know, we're all going to remember that head kick. It was nasty. It was vicious. Brutal. But Jessica Eye is a well-rounded girl. At 125 anyway. You know, that's where she's found her success. Her opponent, also very impressive, Vivian Araujo. She comes into this fight 2 wins, 0 losses inside the UFC. This girl is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And she's a very quick, powerful striker. Her striking in her 2 UFC fights has looked beautiful. Just beautiful striking. She fires a lot of single strikes, fires a lot of 1-2s down the middle. And she's always bouncing on her feet. I feel like that's how she's able to generate her power in her striking. You know, she's always bouncing around, just moving back and forth, left, right, and then she steps in with the single strikes and then the 1-2s. I feel like her power is generated from her movement. And I feel like Joe Rogan actually called it best. He called it best. Vivian's style is very exhausting. She becomes very exhausted if it hits that late second, that 3rd round. And that's because of her movement. Her movement is so quick, so consistent, and so hard to keep up with that her herself becomes exhausted from it. And that's the dangers here. So looking back at Vivian's last fight, that's exactly what happened against Alexis Davis, and she was able to get to the end of that fight and win a decision. You know, she looked very good in that fight. Some of the shots she was hitting Alexis with, just nasty. But if Vivian slows down like that against a girl like Jessica Eye, who has, in my opinion, much better boxing than Alexis Davis. Jessica Eye has very decent boxing herself, and if Vivian exhausts herself with that style, I think Jessica Eye's well-rounded game could be the difference. Wearing on her up against the fence, using her own boxing like I said, even a takedown here or there in the last minute of the round. It's a really decent matchup. I've been back and forth on it all week. Prior to last night, I'm going to pick Jessica Eye. I know a lot of you are going to disagree. Vivian will definitely have the speed advantage. She's very quick. She's a very decent striker. Black belt in BJJ, very good girl. But Jessica Eye, well-rounded too. And if Vivian comes out and exhausts herself, I think Jessica Eye is good enough to pick up on that and take over the fight. So I'm going to take Jessica Eye via a very, very close decision. And we take a look at the odds in that fight. Jessica Eye coming back plus 150, Vivian minus 170, minus 180. Yeah, I mean, if Vivian's improved that exhausting style, if she's somehow more composed with it, you know, doesn't bounce as much and looks to bounce more when she's in danger, or I don't know, man. It's a tough one. Her style was beautiful, but if the finish doesn't come and she's put a lot out there, you know, she's high volume, it could put her in a bad place, you know. And Jessica Ai's a tough opponent. At plus 150, I'm willing to give it a shot. I'm not overly confident on Jessica Ai. But if the fight goes down the way I'm picturing it, then I think she has a chance. I could be way off, of course. You know, this is MMA. Anything happens. But at plus 150, I'm willing to give Jessica the chance. Moving into another very, very decent matchup on this card, we have Brandon, the Assassin Baby Moreno versus Kai, Don't Blink, Cara France. We'll start with the Assassin Baby. So Brandon Moreno comes into this fight 3 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw. He's a brown belt in BJJ, primarily a grappler. He has 10 submission wins inside his MMA career, so that paints a picture for us. You know, he is very good when he's able to get to the mat. Now, if he's fighting on the feet, we know who this guy is. We've seen him fight a few times. He's crazy on the feet. He gets very wild, and it works one of 2 ways for Brandon Moreno. So against Askar Askarov, if I remember rightly, he connected with like a flying knee at one point in his last fight, and it hurt Askar Askarov. But then you look at the fight against Sergio Pettis, where Brandon Moreno's trying a few things, but Sergio Pettis is just picking him apart. Even against Pantoja, you know, same thing. So for Moreno, when he's not grappling, it's one or the other. You know, he's keeping his opponent guessing, and the stuff he's trying is working, or you know, his opponent is a good technical striker and they're just picking him apart. Brandon Moreno, you know, he's proven that his jiu-jitsu is very, very good. So the path for victory for Brandon Moreno would be, in my opinion, to get this fight to the mat. Now his opponent, Kai Kara France, a guy I really, really like. Kai comes into this fight 3-0 inside the UFC, training out of City Kickboxing, which is a camp we are all enjoying. We love that camp right now. And Kai is primarily a striker. He's very explosive. He's got good power in his punches. Very good technique for his punches too. He's a good guy. A really good guy. I've liked his UFC career so far. In his last fight against De La Rosa, he proved to us, look, I have got good takedown defense too. Even when De La Rosa was able to get it to the mat, Kai stayed so composed, and De La Rosa was trying. And then Kai Kara just goes, you know what? I'm going to show you you're not going to get me to the mat. You know how I'm going to show you? I'm going to pick you up, put you in the air, and I'm going to slam you to the mat. And that's my way of showing you I'm the dominant fighter here. We're going to fight my fight. We're not going to go to the ground. You're not going to take my back and submit me. We're going to fight on the feet. And Kai Kara looked great in that fight. So we have a similar type of fight where, in my opinion, Brandon Moreno does have to take this fight to the mat. He is way more unpredictable on the feet than De La Rosa. De La Rosa's more technical. He'll come out with a low calf kick, try to use good pressure. Brandon Moreno is going to be, he's going to be moving way more. He's going to be getting way more crazy. And that could work. But as far as I'm concerned, Kai Kara France he's ticking off the boxes as he goes along. You know, De La Rosa got him down, real composure up against the fence. He got back to his feet. You know, he's ticking the boxes as he goes along. His striking, beautiful. You know, he's always there in your face. He's always willing to throw down with you and strike with you. And I don't think Brandon Moreno is going to be able to keep up, you know, going toe-to-toe on the feet with Kai Kara. So I think it's pretty clear. If you're betting on Brandon Moreno, I think he needs to get this to the mat. If you're betting on Kai Kara, I think you believe he has good takedown defense. He's a very composed guy. and he's the better striker in this fight too. I'm going to stick with Kay Kara. I will give Brandon Moreno some respect. I think he's a very tough guy. I'll take Kay Kara via decision. We take a look at the odds. Good odds on this fight too. I was expecting Kay Kara to be like a minus 180, but I guess he has been taken down in his UFC career. Even against Piva, which was before De La Rosa, you know, he has been taken down. So I can understand why Brandon Moreno is only a plus 125. It does make sense. Yeah, decent line. I like the line for both guys. You know, I'm pretty sure Kay Kara can win the fight, and at minus 150, it's not the worst line you've ever seen in your life. Brandon Moreno, you know, he's fought good competition, very good jiu-jitsu. So if you believe Brandon can do it, plus is still good. Bettable line. Moving into another really decent matchup on this card. Stylistically, I really like this fight. We have Daniel Kid Dynamite Teymur versus Chase the Teenage Dream Hooper. We'll start with Daniel Teymur. So Daniel Teymur comes into this fight with only 1 win and 3 losses inside the UFC. He's a very decorated kickboxer with a record of 27-4 in kickboxing prior to the UFC. He won the Swedish National Championships 3 times in Muay Thai. So kickboxing, you know, just keeping it on the feet and kickboxing is where Daniel Teymur is going to have success. I did take him in his last fight. I felt, you know, sooner or later, you know, I've said this many times on this channel, sooner or later when a guy loses the same way multiple times, there comes a point when you don't lose. You're expected to lose like that and you don't lose like that. And that's because these guys, they get better. You know, and when I say that, it takes me back to my breakdown of Vieria and Araujo when I say, you know, if she can get better at fighting with her exhausting style, then she's going to be better. She probably has got better. But an example would be Mark Diakise against Joe Duffy. You know, some of us took Mark Diakise when the majority took Joe Duffy because Mark just doesn't really like to grapple often in his fights. He is a good wrestler. When he has the advantage there, he will win there. But for the most part, Mark Diakise has struggled with grappling. So I don't want to get off of this fight too much. But what I'm trying to say is Daniel Teymur is going to struggle with the grappling. But as a kickboxer, he's very, very good. He's an explosive kicker. Very, very nasty kicks. Moves very well. Not the greatest mixed martial artist, but as a pure kickboxer, I like Daniel Teymur. I like both of the Teymurs as kickboxers. You know, very talented at that mixed martial art. The opponent, Chase the Teenage Dream Hooper, who's no longer a teenager because he's 20 years old. Very young, very, very young. And this guy comes into this fight making his UFC debut. He's 8 wins, 0 losses, 1 draw as a pro. We did see this guy fight a couple years ago on the Contender Series when he was just 18 years old. And, you know, he decorated what he's about in that Contender Series fight. Chase Hooper is a lifelong grappler. He's a BJJ practitioner. I could be wrong in saying this. Let me know in the comments if you're listening to this part and you know the answer. But I think Chase Hooper's parents have been lifelong BJJ practitioners. So that's how he's ended up in that path. You know, I think he's been training very young, 4 years old or something. I could be wrong in saying this. I could be thinking of someone else. But I'm very sure it's Chase Hooper, primarily a grappler. You know, he's looking to just use his grappling, and we see that in the tape on the Contender Series, in the few fights after the Contender Series. If you can find those fights, if you go and watch those, you know, he's very grappling heavy. So it's very clear. It's very, very clear. If you're betting on Chase Hooper, you think he's going to wrap up Daniel Teymur and he's going to submit him, choke him out, rip a limb off, whatever it may be. That's the path for Chase Hooper. Now, for Daniel Teymur, he got his first win inside the UFC. He was able to keep it on the feet. I believe he even ended up on top with a couple takedowns in that fight. But for the majority, he kept it on the feet and it was able to implement his style of fighting. So it's the same. Daniel Teymur keeps this on the feet. I think he's going to win. If Chase Hooper goes to the mat, I think he could win. You know, we just have to ask ourselves, look, if this is a BJJ match, who wins? It's so clear and evident. Chase Hooper submits Teymur every time. If this is just kickboxing, it's so evident that Daniel Teymur would win every single time. So it's one or the other. Usually I lean on the grappling, but this time I'm going to stick with the guy I took to get his first win. I'm going to take Daniel Teymur. I know a lot of people don't believe in this guy, and you know, he, like I said, he isn't the best mixed martial artist, but he is a good kickboxer, and kickboxing is a huge part of being inside the cage. So he has shown us, look, I can get my first win, I can stop the grappling, and if he can stop the grappling here, he will win a kickboxing battle. That's my belief anyway. Of course, I could be wrong. We always could be wrong every week. But for the most part, I think if Daniel Teymur can just keep this kickboxing, he has a very good chance. So I'll take Daniel Teymur via decision. Taking a look at some odds for that fight, we have, what do we have here? We have Daniel Teymur, plus 100, minus 110. Chase Hooper, minus 110. Minus 115, minus 105. So we're just a little bit split with our prices across the whole board on that fight. But overall, it is a pick'em. And I feel, you know, that line resembles exactly the way I spoke about this fight. It really is going to be one or the other. And whoever can implement the dominance, that's going to be it. If Chase Hooper can get a hold of him, take the back on the mat, that's going to be it. If Daniel Teymur can keep stuffing takedowns, you know, Chase Hooper, he's a good BJJ practitioner, but is he a good wrestler? You have to be a good wrestler too. So Daniel Teymur has a good chance. If he keeps it on the feet, he's going to win this fight, I believe. So really bettable line once again on this really good card. Matt Brown versus Ben Saunders. What a fight. We'll start with Matt Brown. He comes into this fight 14 wins, 10 losses inside the UFC. This will be his 25th UFC fight, his 38th pro fight of his career. A veteran of the sport, just a true savage of the game. Obviously past his prime, but that doesn't really take away from, you know, his mentality. He's a true savage, and we're always going to see that. So, taking a look at his most recent fights, Jake Ellenberger, nasty body finish, body kick. It was like he threw a bat at Matt Brown's body and he just crumbled. He actually hit him with one body kick and you could see Matt Brown, like, he felt it. And then he threw another one and that was it. The absolute war against Donald Cerrone, that was a great fight. Just absolute war, back and forth. Obviously, Donald Cerrone getting that amazing head kick finish, beautiful finish. And then you take a look at Matt Brown's most recent fight, which I remember so vividly because it was a beautiful finish. But apparently, that was 2 years ago. So Matt Brown, his last fight was 2 years ago. It doesn't feel like that. But it actually was. So for anyone who hasn't seen that finish, if you have Fight Pass, I know most of you will remember this finish, but there will be a few who hasn't seen this finish. Go back and watch it. Matt Brown versus Diego Sanchez. Matt Brown throws this elbow from hell. He like threw it from like row Z. And it hits Diego Sanchez, and it is just one of the most devastating elbows you will ever see. The way Diego Sanchez crumbles, it's like his body becomes like water or jelly or something. Like, it's crazy. Nasty finish from Matt Brown. But like I said, 2 years ago, man. So it has been 2 years. He is past his prime, so that's not a good sign. His opponent, Ben Saunders, comes into this fight 9 wins, 9 losses inside the UFC. So that just sums up Ben Saunders. This will be his 37th pro fight in his MMA career. So both of these guys are very, very experienced. Ben is primarily a grappler, a black belt in BJJ. Does like to use his Muay Thai as well. We see that up against the fence. Throws those knees, uses elbows, likes to use his kicks from a distance too. So we do see his Muay Thai in his striking, but primarily he's got that 10th planet grappling. So really interesting matchup, right? Both of these guys very experienced. Both of these guys has very good jiu-jitsu. Both of these guys have taken a lot of damage. What else can we say about both of these guys? Their defense is not the greatest. It seems like their offense is their defense. So this fight really goes one of two ways. Matt Brown's let's war mentality could be the difference. Let's just go back and forth at a hard pace. I'm going to catch you. I'm going to hurt you. It very much could happen. Ben Saunders has been caught a lot. Even against Sato in his last fight. He looked good in that fight as well, up until getting caught. But if that's not the outcome, it's because Ben Saunders is using beautiful knees up against the fence. And, you look at the way Ben Saunders finished Ellenberger. And then you look at Ellenberger, the way he finished Matt Brown. This really goes either way. This is a who the hell knows kind of fight. This is like a Stefan Struve and Ben Rothwell. So Ben Saunders, I think he has to win to save his UFC career. Matt Brown probably should retire. Probably should be retired. You know what? I'm going to stick with Ben Saunders. I'm going to take Ben Saunders to not get caught with a big shot. It's a big ask. But if he look, Ben Saunders needs to go into this and he needs to try and hurt Matt Brown too. He needs to fire some knees up against the fence, use his elbows, and even use his jiu-jitsu. Both of these guys very experienced. But I'm actually going to take Ben Saunders, and maybe the activity of Ben Saunders has a role in my play there, but really one of two ways. This is a crazy fight. But I'm going to take Ben Saunders via TKO in round number 2. Not very confident on that pick. Either way, that fight is crazy. And the odds on this line are in... Wow. Okay, so Matt Brown, minus 330, minus 360, minus 4. Ben Saunders, plus 300. That's insane. I mean, like I said, the Matt Brown let's war mentality really could be the outcome. But we've seen Matt Brown take huge damage, and 2 years off of the game. It's not going to take a flying knee like Masvidal for Ben Saunders to end this fight. It's going to be a nice chopping knee to the midsection. Either guy could get finished here. I think the odds should be way closer. Matt Brown's line says the first punch he throws is going to be the one. Maybe it could be, but Ben Saunders at plus 3 to save his career. Yeah, I'm definitely willing to put that in one parlay. Moving into the next fight of the night. Very decent matchup again. Ian, the Hurricane Heimisch versus Omari Wolverine Akhmedov. Very decent matchup, man. We'll start with Ian Heimisch. So Ian comes into this fight 2 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. Primarily a wrestler, a very strong, powerful wrestler. A little backstory on Ian Heimisch for anyone who doesn't know. Ian spent some years in prison. It all started out, he was drug trafficking, selling pills in America. Ended up getting caught. Got a plane to Europe where he stayed to avoid jail time. Done the same thing in Europe. He went back and forth in Europe to South America with cocaine. Ended up getting caught again. That's where he spent a few years in a South American prison. Since getting out of prison, completely turned his life around. So massive credit to Ian Heimisch. Once again, the definition of no matter how your life is going, you can always accomplish what you want to accomplish. Ian is proof of that. So his UFC career so far, I've really liked it. He's proven to us, look, I'm a good grappler. Against Shoeface, a guy we all appreciate, Ian was relentless. You know, the conditioning of Ian Heimisch in those grappling exchanges on the mat up against the fence, scrambling. He was able to come out on top in that fight. Against Cesar Ferreira, the debut, I even counted him out in that fight. After that fight, I learnt my lesson. I took him against Shoeface, but, you know, really impressive debut as well. Only recently, against Derek Brunson, have we seen Ian Heimisch have trouble. Now, we saw how he had trouble in that fight. Came out very wild with his strikes. You know, the technique was way off, just lunging, exhausted himself with his own strikes, and that's where Derek Brunson was able to see, look, I'm an experienced boxer, I'm a good guy, I fought good competition, I see what you're trying to do, I've seen it before. Derek Brunson picked up on that. So the opponent, Omari Akhmedov, comes into this fight 7 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw. This guy is also a grappler, a master of sports in combat sambo, a hand-to-hand champion. And that's like the old school way, the old school Soviet way in Russia of saying you're very good at what you do. And I've said that like 3 times now, but I'm going to continue to say it. I just think it's a funny way, innit? Master of sports. Omari Akhmedov, so hasn't lost in over 3 years. And this guy, you know, if you like him or don't like him, we have to acknowledge he's a well-established UFC fighter. He is very proven. So I'll go back a few years against Al Hassan. You know, was able to keep taking down Al Hassan and was able to win that fight when a lot of people counted him out. And this was back a couple of years ago. And then you look at Omari against Vettori, a young, hungry lion who looks very good right now, and Omari was able to compete in that fight. So clearly we have a grappler versus a grappler. Both of these guys are very, very good wrestlers. Usually when we get this type of fight, we see it taking place on the feet. You know, both guys cancel each other out with the grappling, then we just get striking. I do think we will see grappling though. I think that we're going to see a takedown or two. We're going to see them fight up against the fence. But I think the difference could be you lose and you learn. I think Ian Heimisch had that loss to Brunson. Now he's picked up where he needed to improve, and he's going to take that experience into this fight against a guy who's also a grappler. So he's going to have the experience of how he lost with his strikes in that fight against Derek Brunson, and he's going to take that against a guy who's slower. This guy, Omari Akhmedov, is a very, very good grappler. And maybe his grappling is the difference in this fight. And maybe I'm wrong. But Ian Heimisch had trouble striking against Derek Brunson. He's going to pick up on that. He's going to learn from that. And now he has a guy who isn't as good of a boxer like Derek Brunson is. Omari Akhmedov cannot box the way Derek Brunson can box. He can grapple better than Derek Brunson, but he isn't a boxer like Derek. So maybe that aggressive style that Ian came out with against Brunson, maybe those shots do connect here. Or maybe we see an improvement in Ian's composure and we see a more technical strike land. That's the difference. I could be wrong. Maybe Omari's grappling is the difference. Maybe he's the better grappler. But as far as I'm concerned, I really like Ian Heimisch. And I'm not going to pick against him now. I think he's learnt from the Brunson fight, and we could see good improvements in this fight. So I'm going to take Ian Heimisch via decision. And we take a look at some odds for that fight. If I can find them, I never can find them. Okay, Ian Heimisch, minus 140. Omari, plus 130, plus 120, plus 110. Okay, so we're a little bit confused where the line should be. Ian Heimisch is probably going to finish a slight favourite around minus 130. And I agree with the line. I think both guys are very good wrestlers. That's why it's close. I just think the striking and that loss. Sometimes losses they're important to your career. Like Obviously, no one wants to lose. If everyone can go undefeated, they would. But the facts are, Ian Heimisch lost. He came out and tried to take Brunson's head off. He'd lost, and I think he's got better because of that loss. And I think we could see the improvements from the loss. The other hand is Omari is a small underdog, and that's because he's a very proven grappler. So maybe the grappling is the difference. It's a good line, but I think Ian Heimisch is worthy of maybe 1 or 2 parlays here for me. Ketlen Vieira versus Irene Aldana. Good matchup. We'll start with Ketlen Vieira. She comes into this fight 4-0 inside the UFC. She's not the most active of fighters, but when she's inside the octagon, very decent fighter. We can see how decent of a fighter this girl is. Very good boxer, very decent kickboxer. Her wrestling is very strong. Up against the fence, man. Very strong girl. When the fight hits the mat, also very good there. She's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so you could say this girl has it all. You know, she's powerful. She's a good kickboxer. She's strong. She's a wrestler. She's a BJJ practitioner. The only worry for her is activity. She's not the most active of fighters, but like I said, man, when she does get in there, she looks good. Her opponent, Irene Aldana, who I believe will be her best competition to date, which makes sense. You know, Ketlen Vieira is 4-0. It's not going to be easier now. It is going to get harder. So Irene Aldana comes into this fight only 4-3 inside the UFC. She's primarily a boxer inside the octagon. However, her striking it's gotten better. Like the low calf kick, you can really see that in her last 2 or 3 fights. If you go back and watch it, you know, primarily just a boxer, but recently the kicks she's adding to her game are just beautiful. So a different type of fighter who I could mention now as an example. So I said Wonder Boy. He's an amazing kicker, right? But when he gets into rhythm with his kicks, that's where the 1-2s, the 1-2 jabs up top start landing. So Irene Aldana is similar. When her boxing, when her jab, when it gets consistent inside the octagon, that's when she starts to implement low calf kicks. You know, so Irene Aldana is getting even better as a striker. Now, I know some people find it hard to watch Irene Aldana fight. She's not the most entertaining. But put it like this, right? So I said Matt Brown and Ben Saunders. I said earlier on, their defense does seem to be their offense. Irene Aldana is on the other end of the spectrum. Defensively, she loves to fight defensively. She's all about not getting hit. So if we can appreciate that side of her game, that's how we can appreciate Irene Aldana more as a fighter. You know, she is looking to slip a lot of shots. She is looking to keep up a consistent circling of the octagon. You know, she's very, very good defensively. Now, I know a lot of her jabs do catch the air. They don't catch the target. But for the opponent, on the other end of these jabs, it's so awkward to deal with. Even if they're not touching your nose, even if they're not making the eyes water, it's awkward because it's right there in your face and it's consistent. And then they start to land on the face. And now we're getting kicked to the calf. And the whole time, Irene Aldana's been slipping shots and moving. So when we speak about Irene like this, that's how we can appreciate this fighter. She is a very, very good defensive fighter. So it's an interesting breakdown, man. I think Ketlen Vieira has shown us a well-rounded game. She's very powerful, good jiu-jitsu, very strong. But I think Irene Aldana's showing us, not only is she a good point fighter, but she's getting better and better at it. Her IQ against Raquel Pennington to accept bottom position in that 3rd round was beyond insane. I have no clue why she did that. So maybe just Irene's IQ would be the worry. But the worry for Ketlen Vieira would be she's not the most active. And Irene Aldana is a problem for anyone. She's a good boxer, moves very well. And like I said, implements a good kicking game. So it's a tough pick. I'm going to stick with the more active fighter here. I'm going to take Irene Aldana. But it's a tough fight. I just think she's so quick, man. She's so quick, defensively very good. So I'm gonna stick towards that. So I take Irene Aldana via decision. And we take a look at some odds. Irene plus 150. Ketlin minus 170. I mean, I can't argue against it too much. I think Ketlin Vieria has a very strong, well-rounded game. But I think Irene Aldana is a problem for anyone. And I think if she can fight her fight, I think she has a very good chance. And at plus 150, I'm willing to give it 1 or 2 parlays. Moving into Mike Platinum Perry versus Jeff Hands of Steel Neal. Man, this card, I'm saying it's good every fight, but it is, man. This is an amazing card. I'm hyped for this card. This is the featured fight of the prelims. And wow, how do you even pick this fight? Let's try. Okay, Mike Perry comes into this fight 6 wins, 5 losses inside the UFC. A real madman. A real fighter, a fan favourite. He's always in good fights, whether he loses or wins. He's looking to come forward and take your head off. Now, that is the picture we get when we think of Mike Perry. But the reality is, he's kind of become more composed, man. Like I say, these fighters are just getting better. They're getting better and better. That's just what happens. So Mike Perry has spoken a lot about his jiu-jitsu. He's entering jiu-jitsu competitions. He's looking to win point battles. You know, he's looking to control his aggression inside the octagon. So if you take a look at the fight against Max Griffin, Mike Perry's just Mike Perry, right? He's looking to be a madman. But then you go and look at the fight against like Alex Oliveira, or even his last fight, his loss against Vicente Luque. You look at Mike Perry over 15 minutes in those 2 fights, and you can see a controlled madman. Not just a madman, but a controlled madman. So I have to give credit to Mike Perry. Obviously, you know, that nose. The nose in the last fight with Vicente Luque. I don't even want to speak about the nose, it's that bad. But Mike Perry, man, he can take a shot, clearly. He can give powerful shots out himself. He's a professional brawler, man, but he's looking to be more composed with it. He's not looking to get cracked with these shots. He can take them, but yeah, Mike Perry, he's a madman, but he is getting more composed with it. His opponent, Jeff Hands of Steel Neal, this guy's very good. I've only gone against him once. Jeff Neal comes into this fight 4-0 inside the UFC. Training out of Fortis MMA, which is a camp we all can say is a very good camp. And inside his career so far, man, he's been very impressive. Like Hands of Steel, you know, he's hitting people. It looks beautiful. You look at his last fight against Nico Price. Nico Price even was able to catch Neal in that second round, and then Neal just ended up on top and finished Price. You look at the fight against Belal Muhammad, where Jeff Neal was, I believe that's his most impressive performance. At one point in that fight, Belal Muhammad he has Jeff Neal's legs. He's searching for a takedown, and Jeff Neal is just posturing off of one hand. He's literally keeping himself off the mat, mid-air, just holding himself up with one hand. So Jeff Neal, man, athletically very, very good. He's quick, he's powerful. You look at the head kick finish against Frank Camacho, and so composed aggression. So I feel like Mike Perry is meeting Jeff Neal at the right time. I feel like if this fight happened maybe early 2018, it would be a more dangerous fight for Mike Perry. But like I said earlier, man, he's proven that he's more composed and more controlled with his aggression. So I think both guys, you know, are going to meet each other with fire. You know, both of these guys are fire. It's fire versus fire. Both fire is going to be controlled. You know, controlled aggression is what both of these guys have right now. You know, Mike Perry has proven that he's improved that area of his game. So it makes it a very tough pick. Like I said, early 2018, I think it would have been a more dangerous fight for Perry. I probably would have taken Neal. But right now, as of right now, I think Mike Perry has just improving his game. He's improving his brawler game, and he's a very good point fighter now. So I'm going to take Mike Perry. And, you know, the determination has to be a part of this pick as well. I think if both guys have controlled aggression, good composure in their strikes, I think you have to put this down to determination too. The ability to take a shot late second, the ability to keep pushing and landing powerful strikes in the third round. You know, Niko Price was able to hurt Jeff Neal, and that's no shame because Niko Price is a madman too, right? Mike Perry is also a madman, but I think it's more composed than Niko Price. So that's what I'm leaning on here. I think Mike Perry is very much about this life. I'm not saying Jeff Neal isn't, but just the determination and the improvements, the recent improvements of Mike Perry, I think it could be enough. So I'm going to take Mike Perry, and I'm going to take him to get a TKO in round number 2. And we take a look at some odds for this fight, and I'm a little surprised because I'm sure a lot of you would agree with me. In Perry's last 2 fights, it's been way more controlled than, like, you look at the fight against Max Griffin. Like I said, that was a wild Perry, and he's getting better. So to see Mike Perry plus 200, I think this is a mirror match. Both guys are very similar. Jeff Neal minus 250. I'm a big fan of Jeff Neal too, so I wouldn't be surprised that he's a favourite, but minus 250 seems like he would be fighting the old Perry. Maybe I'm just making this up, but you let me know in the comments if you see improvements in Mike Perry's game in his last 2 fights. Even the loss against Luque. I took Luque in that fight, and at the very end of the fight, I said, do you know what? I think Mike Perry may have just won that fight. Really, I really think that. So let me know. The line is a little off, but I'm going to take a shot on Mike Perry. Alright, homies, we're going to do a quick smoke break. That's all the prelims broken down and predictions made for. Before we get into the main card, we'll just take literally 2-3 minutes, have a quick smoke, read a couple comments, and then we'll get into the main card. So, Savage Montana. I think that putting up the poll to choose a winner for the next main event is a perfect idea. Love the idea of just seeing what the community thinks of the outcome. That's my exact thoughts, mate. Literally, that is my exact thoughts. I love seeing who this community has. You know, I'm assuming most of you are gamblers. Most of you just do DraftKings. Some of you don't even gamble. You just love to hear breakdowns for every card, which is also really, really cool. And some of you, you know, just bet on the pay-per-views or every now and then. You know, we have all different types of gamblers, but the point I'm trying to make is I appreciate all of your opinions. I love to engage with you in the comments. But to get like a rough view of who we're picking, you know, if we get 400 votes on a main event, you know, that's always a nice view to see who the community are taking. So Savage Montana, man, that's my exact thoughts and feelings, bro, and I love that you like that idea too. Scott G, I believe the Canadian Scott G, stumbled upon this channel tonight. You're knowledgeable and informative, even info on UFC newcomers, which is hashtag super necessary shots. Highly respectable for what you're representing on this channel. I'll definitely subscribe so it'll be easy to return for future events. Yeah, beautiful. I love that comment, Scott G. Thank you very much. I always try to include information for anyone who picked up MMA or UFC like last month, last year. And I also try and speak about the veterans of the sport or even past the time where I started watching the sport. But what I'm trying to do here is just show anyone like, look, MMA is crazy. We're going to make predictions every week. We're going to break down fights week in, week out, and we're just going to see how crazy this sport is. I love this community, and I love that you're a part of this channel. Okay, so I have a story for you guys. Just a quick 2-minute story. So everyone's had a power cut, right? Had a power cut. Power went off. And then the power came back on, you know, everything came back on, the TV came back on, you know, all the power in the whole house came back on. However, my Xbox apparently my Xbox didn't recover from that power cut. So everything came back on. Went to put my Xbox back on, didn't recover. So I didn't know that like consoles or whatever could die during a power cut. I don't know if it died during the power cut. Well, the Xbox was on, so the power went off, but it never came back on. So I don't know if it's like plus 50,000 and it died during a power cut, or somehow the Xbox was able to die via power cut. So yeah, my first experience with that. Let me know if that's ever happened to you, because some weird stuff is going on. I don't like that, you know, the Xbox dying during a power cut. You know, what are the chances of that? That's crazy. What else can we speak about here, guys? This card, I mean, 3 title fights to predict coming up. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to mention. So at the start of this podcast, I said I'm going to mention something about 3 title fights in the smoke break. I just remembered it. So the last time we had 3 title fights, I went and still on all 3. And if anyone can remember back to that, if anyone watched that card, or if you've gone back and rewatched it, it was 3 and new. So I got all 3 title fights right. So that's just, you know, I don't have to mention that. That was way before this channel existed, but I want to let you guys know. The last time there was 3 title fights, I went for 3 and still, and there was 3 and new. So that was a terrible card for me. Okay, let's get into this main card. Peter No Mercy Yan versus Uriah Faber. Let's start with Peter Yan. So he comes into this fight 5-0 inside the UFC, training out of Tiger Muay Thai, which is a very decent camp. Primarily a boxer inside the octagon. Nasty, nasty boxer. He's actually a master of sports in boxing. So when we hear that for these Russian guys, we usually hear master of sports in combat sambo or hand-to-hand. But Peter Yan's a Russian who is a master of sports in boxing. So bit different, but we see that inside the octagon. He has very, very good boxing. He's fought some very good guys like Douglas Andrade, John Dodson, Jimmy Rivera. He fought a guy called Jin Soo Sun, who, if you have Fight Pass and you haven't seen Peter Yan versus Jin Soo Sun, go and watch that fight, because it's trust me, it's a really, really good fight. Both guys just have iron chins in that fight, and they're trying to take each other's head off. It's an amazing fight. Most recently, so looking back at Peter Yan's Jimmy Rivera fight, I thought Jimmy Rivera looked very good in that fight. But the difference is, you know, you look at those final 30 seconds of the first and the second round. Peter Yan, the boxing, he's such a good boxer. Just nasty pressure coming forward. High guard as well. Keeps his hands nice and high, just like Calvin Kattar would. But Peter Yan, you know, fighting at 135, strong conditioning. He's able to come forward and just keep that pressure on you, just constantly stalking the opponent. And he's just forcing you to fight. You know, he's coming forward and he's saying, look, you're going to throw and I'm going to throw, and we're going to see what the difference is. You look at the fight against John Dodson. I mean, John Dodson is kept on the back foot the whole time. Jimmy Rivera is mainly kept on the back foot, but looked very good. But just at the end of the round, that's the difference. Peter Yan caught him, and that was the most significant point in the first and the second round. Uriah Faber comes into this fight 11 wins, 6 losses inside the UFC. A veteran, a legend of the sport, wrongfully still fighting. I say wrongfully, but in all respect, you know, he came back against Ricky Simone and finished him. You know, Ricky Simone is a young, hungry guy who, you know, we saw him last night. You know, he gave Rob Font a very, very good battle. You know, 1-1 heading into the third, took shots off of Rob Font and really impressed me with his chin. Uriah Faber was just able to catch him in that weird spot on the forehead. And that was Uriah Faber's, I believe that was his first TKO inside the UFC. So Uriah Faber was able to get it done against an up-and-comer, a very good relentless grappler. Now the difference is Peter Yan's an up-and-comer, but he's a boxer. So you look at the way Ricky Simón came out against Uriah Faber, like he was just going to take his head off. Very overconfident. And maybe that was why, maybe that played into Uriah Faber getting that knockdown. Before he got the knockdown, Ricky Simón actually tagged him. He kind of stumbled Uriah Faber, and that's why Uriah Faber ended up against the fence. I don't think Peter Yan's going to come out any different. I think Peter Yan's going to come out just as confident as Ricky Simón, if not probably more confident. I think Ricky Simón, you know, didn't have a bad game plan. Uriah Faber just caught him. Maybe that happens again, but as far as I'm concerned, Peter Yan's going to come out just as confident as Ricky Simón. The only difference is Peter Yan is a very, very good, nasty boxer, whereas Simón was able to impress us with relentless takedowns, you know, and Peter Yan's impressed us in a different area. He's tagging these guys. The only way I really see Uriah winning is taking this fight to the mat and getting a submission. I think Peter Yan could have a very, you know, quick fight here. I think he could tag Uriah once or twice, and that's it. So I'm going to take Peter Yan via TKO in round number 1. When we look at the odds, man, I can't argue too much against it. Peter Yan -5, Uriah +350. The comeback was nice for Uriah. You know, the crowd was absolutely crazy. If you was at that fight, let me know, because the crowd was insane. Nice comeback win for Uriah, but a completely different guy in Peter Yan. You know, a vicious striker. And Peter Yan, he's quick, man. He's real quick. I think he's going to be able to avoid the takedowns and just tee off on Uriah. So -5, I can't really argue against it. Maybe if you're looking to use Peter Yan in parlays, maybe just put him in doubles with underdogs. That's probably how you're going to get the best out of betting on Peter Yan. Moving into Jose Aldo versus Marlon Magic Moraes. Very good fight. Brazilian versus Brazilian. We'll start with the legend, Jose Aldo. He comes into this fight 10 wins, 4 losses inside the UFC. Another legend of the sport. The former 145 champion. A really respected guy by pretty much everyone. Went, 9 years undefeated before Conor was able to stop him. Just, you know, a legend of the game. Has had a tough time recently, you know, had those 2 fights with Max Holloway. Didn't go his way, took some damage. You know, seemed to take a big toll on Aldo, that Conor loss and those Max Holloway losses. But then you look at him against Jeremy Stephens and Renato Moicano, and you're like, you know, Aldo is Aldo. He's always going to be a legend. He's always going to be a great guy. You know, you don't go 9 years undefeated as champion and just lose it overnight. You know, you can have some confidence knocked out of you. But we can see the Aldo in those 2 fights. Now, his last fight against Alexander Volkanovski, there's no shame in a loss like that. You know, Volkanovski fought very smart in that fight. I'm sure we was very split on that fight too. But Volkanovski is a strong guy. Held Aldo up against the fence. Was able to stay very safe when the fight wasn't in the clinch as well. So Jose Aldo, man, he's always going to be a great guy. But you would probably tend to say he is out of his prime. You know, I think that's a fair statement. He is stepping down to 135. Now, as much as I don't want to make that a factor in this fight, you just have to, because I can't recall Jose Aldo stepping down to 135 ever. Now, if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments, but as far as I'm concerned, he's fought at 145 pretty much his whole career, right? And you look at the weight cuts he has for 45. You know, it looks like he's having a strong weight cut as it is. So to see an extra 10 pounds, I don't know how that's going to affect Jose Aldo. You know, maybe his punches are the difference, because he's going to be fighting a guy who, isn't a 145er, who hasn't got a frame like Max Holloway. You know, Marlon Moraes is a 35er. So, you know, it's debatable. Some of us are going to say the move down for Aldo seems to be the right move. And some of us are going to say, Jose Aldo, another £10. I don't think so. Taking those shots with an extra £10, no. You know, so we're going to be split here, guys. Understand we're going to be split. The opponent, Marlon Moraes, comes into this fight 4 wins, 2 losses inside the UFC. Marlon started training in Muay Thai at 7 years old. He's a black belt in Muay Thai. Started training in BJJ at 15 years old. He's also a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu. Very well-rounded guy. You know, just a nasty Brazilian. As a striker, he's very dangerous. And then you look at the fight against the Suncell, the second one. He was able to get that fight done via submission. So you're seeing him, his overall game. He's a very good fighter, Marlon Moraes. The knee against Aljamain Sterling was just pure, just brutal, just nasty. Against Jimmy Rivera, very quick, you know. Some of the easiest money I've ever made in those 2 fights. Just Marlon Moraes getting it done so quick, so powerful, so quick and nasty, man. So this fight goes one or 2 ways, I think, you know. And you have to factor in as well, Marlon Moraes had that loss to Cejudo. Some of us took Cejudo, some of us took Moraes. You know, on paper it was a good fight, but the conditioning is something Marlon Moraes struggled with. You know, Henry Cejudo has great conditioning. So maybe Marlon Moraes, the whole time he's been out, you know, those 6 months or so, he's going to be working on his conditioning. So this goes one or 2 ways. Jose Aldo has a great debut at 135, or Marlon Moraes, you know, doesn't get too frightened that he's fighting a Brazilian legend, sticks to what he's good at, and looks to test the chin of Jose Aldo at 135. It's a very tough pick. I tend to lean towards the more proven Brazilian at 135. And that's no disrespect to Jose Aldo. I could be proven wrong with this weight cut, but before, like, if you're asking me before the fight, man, like, because, you know, we have to predict something we haven't seen. And if I'm having to do that, I'm going to say that extra £10 isn't going to be good for Aldo. So I think the shots of Marlon Moraes are going to be more effective. So I'm going to take Marlon Moraes via TKO in round number 1. Could be way off there, man, but that's just what I feel. We take a look at the odds. Jose Aldo plus 170, plus 160. Marlon Moraes coming back minus 180, minus 190. Yeah, I mean, probably could be a little bit closer, but I'm sure a lot of the line for Jose Aldo being, you know, a fair underdog, I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the weight cut. I'm sure a lot of us are factoring that into this fight, you know. So once again, a few of you are going to say it could be a good thing. A few of you are going to say it's not going to be a good thing. It's debatable. No one's right until we see it. But I am leaning towards the more proven guy in Marlon Moraes at 135. Amanda Nunes, the Lioness, versus Jermaine, the Iron Lady, de Randamie. The first title fight on this amazing pay-per-view card. Let's start with Amanda Nunes. She comes into this fight 11 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. She has 2 wins over Valentina Shevchenko, a win over Miesha Tate, a win over Ronda Rousey, a win over Cyborg, a win over Holly Holm. Who can disagree this girl's the best to ever do it? She's the best to ever do it, and she has another fight here where if she wins this fight, she solidifies being the greatest female fighter ever once again. So, yeah, what can we say about Amanda Nunes? I predicted she'd go in there and beat Chris Cyborg. I felt she'd edge out a decision. She went in there and TKO'd her. I felt she could edge out a decision, potentially finish Holly Holm late or early. She went out there and head kicked her. So, you know, this girl is beating girls with their own medicine. You know, going out there and head kicking Holly Holm is like mauling Habib. It's like beating Masvidal with a flying knee. You know, it's like subbing Damian Maia. You know, the point I'm trying to make is it's insane. I don't know how anyone can't say Amanda Nunes is the best to ever do it. She's phenomenal, you know. And this fight has already happened. She has already fought Germaine de Randamie. It did happen quite a few years ago. So her opponent, Germaine the Iron Lady de Randamie, comes into this fight 6-1 inside the UFC. Her only loss has come to Amanda Nunes. Germaine de Randamie trains out of ATT, which is an amazing camp. And prior to the UFC, Germaine de Randamie, high-level kickboxer, 36-0, or no, 46-0, I believe, as a kickboxer. So, yeah, that's her martial art. You know, just like a guy like Daniel Teymur. You know, if he can kickbox, he's going to have a good time. If Germaine de Randamie can kickbox, she's going to have a good time. However, you look at her last fight against Aspen Ladd, and you see the boxing, the strike she put down Aspen Ladd with. Once again, we go back to these fighters just get better and better and better. However, it is very hard for me to pick against Amanda Nunes. You know, I spoke the words on this channel. Nunes, I think she's going to beat Cyborg. You know, a lot of people said I'm out of my mind. So now every match from here just seems like everyone's with me. You know, everyone feels Amanda Nunes is going to win. And I'm glad she's getting that respect. You know, she's such a talented fighter. I think she can kickbox with Germaine de Randamie. I think she could take her to the mat the way she did in the first fight. I think she can win any way she wants to win. You know, she's proven she's a very, very good fighter. She's a great fighter. And I don't know if Germaine de Randamie has the conditioning, the pace, the determination to just keep going with a tough, nasty girl like Amanda Nunes. So yeah, I'll take Amanda Nunes via TKO in round number 2. And we take a look at some odds. Amanda Nunes minus 300. Germaine de Randamie minus 230. Now, we have to remember, Amanda Nunes isn't really going to be an underdog again. She's never going to be an underdog. So her underdog price is probably like minus 150. So minus 300 is really like minus 150 or minus 200. You know, she's beating Cyborg automatically makes you a favourite no matter what. So we have to understand when Amanda Nunes is like a minus 1 something, that's basically her as a pick'em or an underdog. Germaine de Randamie plus 230, plus 240. I mean, if you believe she can keep up a high pace, if you believe she has the strike to put Amanda down, if you think her kickboxing ability is going to be the difference, then it's worth a bet. But how can you go against the best to ever do it in Amanda Nunes? Minus 3, I think you could still end a couple parlays in Amanda Nunes there. Moving into a great co-main event, another title fight. Max Blessed Holloway versus Alexander the Great Volkanovski. And it would be rude not to hit some medicine to break down this fight. Okay, here we go. An amazing co-main event. Max Blessed Holloway comes into this fight 17-4 inside the UFC. This will be his 22nd UFC fight. So at 28 years old, it's safe to say Max Holloway is a veteran. Already at 28, 22, this will be his 22nd UFC fight. Just like Jose Aldo, Max Holloway is one of the best 145ers of all time. 10 out of 10 for conditioning, 10 out of 10 for output on his best days, punches in bunches. And just like Conor McGregor, I think Max Holloway is a master of range. He loves to measure that range, sets traps for you to walk into. Just a really intelligent striker, so much experience. A proven takedown defense as well. Like you look at his last fight against Frankie Edgar, you know, proven with the takedown defense. I did take Dustin Poirier to beat Max Holloway, and that's purely because of stopping power. I felt Dustin Poirier has good stopping power for 155. And I like Max Holloway as a 45er. I don't like him as a 55er. I have heard him speak about, you know, looking to step up to 55, and that's his choice. But at 45, Max Holloway is great. So we take a look at the opponent, Alexander the Great Volkanovski. The only time I've ever went against Volkanovski, for some reason, the only time I picked against him was Darren Elkins. I have no clue what I was smoking that week, but that's the only time I've doubted him. Volkanovski, 7-0 inside the UFC, training out of City Kickboxing. Just a really good guy. Volkanovski is well deserving of this chance to fight for the title. Very, very strong wrestler. Very good conditioning. He's got the IQ. Packs real power in his punches as well. Like, Volkanovski is a problem and well deserving of this chance to fight Max Holloway. So you look at Volkanovski against Chad Mendes. You know, I was taking Volkanovski in that fight. I believe Chad Mendes actually closed as a favourite. I was quite surprised. But Volkanovski was put into some trouble, was able to recover, and then, you know, finished Chad Mendes towards the end of the second round. So massive, massive win for Volkanovski that fight. Like I said earlier on, against Jose Aldo, he fought really smart. Fought up against the fence, was able to show a nice calf kick when the fight wasn't up against the fence too. And that's something, by the way, that's something Jose Aldo needs to come back with. His calf kick. It's really missing from his game. But Volkanovski displayed a nice calf kick. Really, really, really intelligent game plan against Jose Aldo. Against Darren Elkins, for some reason I doubted him. Beat him up. Shane Young, really good performance in that fight too. Like, Volkanovski has just looked impressive each fight he's in. So the question is for me here, Max Holloway has proven to us who he is, right? So the questions here lie with Volkanovski. Has he got the power to knock out Max Holloway? I think he has got the power. He does have the ability and the power to knock out Max Holloway, in my opinion. Has he got the conditioning? For 15 minutes, yes. For 25, I don't think so. I don't think so. We have seen him go a hard 15, but can he go a hard 25? Also, has Volkanovski got the ability to you know, take down Max Holloway, put him up against the fence? And, you know, if he can do it for one round, that's cool, that's nice. But can he do it for 5 rounds? You know, is there going to be a moment in that 5th round where Max Holloway is just, you know, he's landed 40 plus strikes and the volume is just piling on Volkanovski, the way we've seen Max Holloway do that to Brian Ortega, you know? Is that going to happen? I tend to lean towards that. I think Max Holloway, you know, a master of range, in my opinion. Just like Conor McGregor, he uses that range so well and sets traps for you. So I have to assume that Max Holloway wins those later rounds. You know, he's so good there, just like Nate Diaz. You know, that 4th and 5th round, Max Holloway is an animal there. The only time he hasn't really been an animal there was against Dustin Poirier. And that was purely down to stopping power. The only reason Dustin Poirier won that fight, which I predicted he would, the only reason I said he made a decision win on that fight is he was able to, every time Max Holloway was using his output and his conditioning, just the power of Dustin Poirier's punch was able to stop Max Holloway. You know, set him down, like make him reset. Can Volkanovski do that? I don't think he can. Maybe he proves me wrong. He has got the ability, he has got the power. But Max Holloway is so experienced, man. He's so good. So I see Max Holloway winning via decision. Checking some odds on that fight, that co-main event, we have Max Holloway minus 175, which, wow, a lot of respect going into Alexander Volkanovski here. Only plus 140, plus 138, plus 150. So he's bit different of a price across the board, but yeah, this is a decent fight, man. Volkanovski well deserving of the chance to fight Max Holloway. And Max Holloway has basically a similar fight to Frankie Edgar, but Volkanovski is like the fresher version of Frankie Edgar. So in a way, I do see it being a tougher fight than Frankie Edgar. Okay, it's main event time. The third title fight on this pay-per-view. It's an amazing main event. We have Kamara, the Nigerian Nightmare Usman, versus Colby Chaos Covington. So we'll start with Kamara Usman. He comes into this fight 10-0 inside the UFC. Primarily a wrestler. I believe he was a Division 2 wrestler prior to the UFC. Just a very, very strong wrestler. Good punching power. Beautiful, strong conditioning. Just such a dominating guy. Reminds me of Khabib. Just like the 170 version, the Nigerian version. And that's what we get when we watch Kamara Usman fight, man. He's a beast. So you look at him against Email Meek, which, you know, missed a 40% that night. Damian Maia, you know, basically used the blueprint, keep it on the feet, be calm up against the fence. Against RDA, extremely dominating with his takedowns. I did say Kamara Usman would beat Tyron Woodley. A few people laughed at me with that one too, but Kamara Usman is... I said this as well. I said Kamara Usman is the modern day Tyron Woodley. So it's not even a loss for Tyron Woodley. Like, they're the same person, just, you know, a different time. Kamara Usman is the new Tyron Woodley. He's the modern day Woodley. And that's what we see over his whole UFC career. Just domination when it comes to clinching. Just powerful. Such an intimidating guy to fight against. Now, the opponent, Colby, comes into this fight also 10 wins, but he has got one loss inside the UFC. That came to Warlley Alves. It was quite a quick finish as well. Since then, he's fought, I believe, 6 or 7 times. Quite a few wins now. Good win streak. You look at Colby against Damian Maia. You know, Colby actually got jabbed up a little bit by Damian Maia, but same thing for Colby. Was able to keep it on the feet. Colby also fought RDA. You know, same thing. Colby was able to take down RDA. It was very dominant. You look at Colby against Robbie Lawler. Just, not only is it impressive that Colby can take you to the mat over and over and over, look at the output from Colby on the feet. He showed us a real output, just constantly touching Robbie Lawler every single round. It was dominating. So both of these guys are just extremely good wrestlers. They have 10 out of 10 conditioning. They're relentless and they're just really, really good. Both of these guys are great. And it's near impossible to pick who's going to win. I don't think Colby is going to be able to hold down Kamara Usman. He didn't have a good time trying to hold down Robbie Lawler. So I don't think Colby's going to win there. I'm not saying Colby isn't going to get a takedown. I'm just saying he's not going to secure the position. Whereas Kamara Usman, I think if he gets a takedown, he could secure the position on Colby. That's just my belief. However, Colby's a very good wrestler, so he's going to make it very tricky. Either way this fight goes, I think it's going to go 25 minutes. And I think it's going to be very, very close. Whoever wins this fight, I think it's going to be because they won 3 rounds. And I think one judge is probably going to disagree and say the other guy won 3 rounds. That's just what I'm picturing in my head. I think it could be a split decision. You know, both of these guys are good. Is Colby going to show that output with his hands in the later rounds? Or is Kamara Usman going to, you know, get the takedown in the first, the second, win those rounds and nick a round later on? Colby hasn't really been taken down. You know, he was in the clinch with Warlley Alves and he got choked there. But no one's really been able to take down Colby. So it's such an impossible pick. But you know what? I'm going to stick with Kamara Usman. I took him to beat Tyron Woodley. And I've taken Colby a lot. You know, I've rarely count either of these guys out. You know, I'm fans of both of them despite the some of the cringy trash talk prior to fights, some of the terrible things that Colby has said, some of the weird things Kamaru said. Despite that, just looking at these guys and what they do inside the octagon, I'm huge fans of their ability. And I could be very wrong on this fight, but you know what? Last time there was 3 title fights I picked, 3 and still I was wrong. There was 3 and new. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna take 3 and still, and let's just see what we get here. Okay, before we end this video, we're gonna look at the odds for this main event. The main event odds: Colby plus 170, plus 160, plus 150, plus 138. So Colby's line is all over the place. We don't really know where he's at. He is an underdog. Kamaru Usman -2, -190, -180, -170. I think it's going to probably finish Kamaru Usman -160, -170. Colby probably plus 150, plus 160. It's a really close fight. Colby could win via output, or Kamaru Usman is just as good as Colby, just stronger and more powerful. Maybe we get the answer for the conditioning. You know, who is better conditioned here? Some would say Colby, some would say Kamaru. It's such a tough one. I'm going to take Kamaru Usman. As always, guys, I appreciate doing these episodes. Leave your comments down below. Let's engage with all of these fights. I love you all. Peace.